Mike's being the Lone Ranger
All right,
tonight.
7 o'clock time now for the work session followed by the city council meeting live here at Grand Haven City Hall. Let's go to the podium and there's Kayla.
Call to order this Grand Haven City Council special work session. And we're going to ask Linda to call the roll, but she'll be ready in just 1 second.
I do, but no one will hear me if I'm not on the mic. Manetza?
Here.
Ruger?
Here.
Scott?
Here.
Fritz?
Here.
McCallum?
Here. We got 2 items on our work session agenda this evening. The first one is our first look at Coast Guard Festival 2019. So we're going to ask Mike Smith to come up and tell us what's new for
Hello,
Festival
everyone.
this year.
I'm Commander Mike Smith, the Executive Director of the Grand Haven Coast Guard Festival, and proud to be a downtown resident of Grand Haven. This year we took a step back because, as you know, and we have come to realize that bigger is just bigger sometimes. It's not necessarily.
You know, you did take a
Better.
step back. The whole podium is a step back. Is that, sorry, go ahead.
So, is this okay?
Yeah, it's
That's
fine,
fine.
just you're kind of far away.
Okay.
That's fine.
You're fine.
Don't move it because Scott's got his cameras set.
Oh, sorry, my fault. Sorry, Scott.
The camera's set.
Uh-oh,
I'm really 6'2" now on this
my,
version.
my fault. I'll take the blame.
Anyway, after meeting with the DDA and several city folks, we took a step back to look at the festival. It doesn't need to be louder. It doesn't need to be more colorful, filled with color. It's the tone that we really need to dial down or up. And so when we looked at each of the events for this year, we decided that we set the tone. It started as a community event that grew into many events for the community. And now, as it has gotten bigger, we're seeing that it's not just a community event, it's larger than that, and we have some bigger issues that come with more people. So that's what we looked at for this year. So some things as simple as meeting with the DDA and deciding how we can alleviate folks from long lines and smelly porta-johns in front of stores, to positioning maybe some occasional executive suite bathrooms and porta-johns and revised versions of some smaller versions of that in the carnival area. We looked at the security issues that we talked about last year. We looked at how we can make a stronger presence known. But the reality is we need to establish that it's our town and these are our standards. And now when you come to visit us, this is what we expect. And as Joy Gash in our conversation so quickly pointed out, is that we're in control of the expectations we set. Whether it's cleanliness and garbage or grease or the tone of the events, we control that. So that's the message that we're leading with this year, and that's what we're looking at each of the events. So I really don't need necessarily to feel like we have to run through every slide. Let me tell you sort of what's going to be different. Because we're no longer using the marina parking lot for food vendors, for a variety of great reasons, we're going to use that as a staging area for the shows to get in and out, and also for closer access to porta-johns so people aren't going down to the park. We have them a little bit closer to the stadium, but still respectful of the distance between the stadium and the porta-johns, because they do come with a special air. So that's going to work out great. That means we lost some opportunities for revenues, but that also gave us an opportunity to tighten up. So now on Harbor Drive, we said, okay, we're going to make it look different. Now there's no more open tents, there's no more open grills. It's only going to be contained trucks and contained added units, which are portable in nature, but they're self-contained. So it's going to look different. And we only have up to 15 of those. So that's going to be a big difference. And eventually, my hope was to get rid of all the access lines and the need for electricity all along. We'll work with the city on the future of that, but this year we wanted it to look fresh, look clean, and I'm going to tell you that people on the festival board were nervous about, we're going to lose all these people because we're going to double the price, and we're going to have nobody that wants to participate. In fact, we have a waiting line, and now it costs twice as much. So that tells you how successful they really have been in their products and the people that use their services. So that's a different look. Another one is in Escanaba Park. We're trying to limit the look of that because that's more sacred, and we'll have the ships there, etc. But we do have people that come in and out there. We'll have USAA, who's a partner, and they've been there before, but we're trying to tighten up the look of that so that you can tour the ships and without going through a maze of tents, etc. We've had some smaller things there in the years past, but we're looking at how we do that. The hours of the carnival, which is going to affect the who's that are there. So we're looking at shortening the hours of the carnival on the Friday and Saturday. And instead of having it till 1 in the morning, Friday I think we're looking at 11, and Saturday at the conclusion of the fireworks, the carnival closes. As most of us parents know, nothing good happens and nothing is open besides the police department and the emergency room after 12 to 1 in the morning. So now we're going to try that and see if we can't contain the who's and where they are in the city. And really continue to look at ways to return it to a community festival for folks, whether they're going to the carnival or other activities during the week up until really our visitors come on Friday and Saturday, and have a stronger visual presence. Some of my recommendations weren't necessarily embraced by the Public Safety Department, but we'll work this year through to see how good we are and how effective we are with some things we're going to do with fencing in carnival areas. So those are really the biggest changes besides the ones we work with the city, which is sort of control of the area, access. We have more days of activities, but really they're at night. One big thing that is different that I sort of saving till the end was the executive committee for the festival asked me to request the opportunity to consider the sale of beer and wine only during the nights of the entertainment at the waterfront. I'm holding back my personal views because they asked me to bring that forward, and I am, for consideration. But our shows are family friendly. We encourage families to come to our shows. Yeah. So the mix of what we offer during our shows, et cetera, should take some consideration for you to sort of think about. But I'm bringing it because they might have read in the paper where there are other opportunities for other folks, maybe Seven Steps Up has requested it, to have alcohol in the waterfront stadium. And again, we're not them, but I said I would bring it forward and see where it went. There is no plans right now. We have no alliances with any beverage companies. There's nothing planned to move forward other than they asked me to ask. The entertainment, everything else is about the same.
All righty. Well, for one, I appreciated having the DDA sit down with the Coast Guard Festival Committee and just airing out some issues that have been going on for quite some time. And if you don't sit down and talk to each other, each side isn't aware of the other. And that's, so I think awareness helps a lot, and then both sides can then go, you know, they can understand what some of the stuff that's gone on, and maybe try to work through some of these things to make everybody happier. And I appreciate the flexibility that the festival has shown as far as what some of the points that were brought up. So I greatly appreciate that.
I think what mattered most to me was when people gave comments this year that they were residents, that they were, I'll use the word afraid to go to certain things on Friday and Saturday. And that's never what you want to hear for what is a hometown event. So that's what bothers me the most. We need to work on that.
Right, no, it's absolutely true. And the other, you know, I do question, I know when we spoke earlier, you'd said the request for alcohol, you know, like 2 evenings. And so when I read 6, I was a little surprised, and I just wondered if there's, especially on Friday and Saturday night, particularly because it's such a huge crush of people, and the potential for incidents is greater then. So I would question especially those 2 nights as far as that request. And I don't know how well, you say you haven't done, so you probably aren't set up with security and all of that.
No, and there's a whole nother layer that goes with having folks that paid admission to a stadium now, and we're encouraging family friendly, especially those 2 nights with fireworks, etc. Then we get into policing. You know, is he 16 or 18, or is he with his parents, or he's with a friend that's old enough to buy something and they walk back to sit down? There's a lot of things that go with it, and we haven't discussed those at all.
Okay, well, that's my basic reservation. I'm not sure that introducing that along with a crush of people is the best way to go about it, but I'll wait and see what other folks have to say, so.
I agree with Jerry. You know, I just as soon not have alcohol in the stadium at all. Like, you know, if I'm just not in favor of putting alcohol down there at all. So, but the rest of it sounds good, Mike. I mean, you've limited how many concession stands are going to be on Washington Street, and you took them out of the marina parking lot. I think all great steps, you know, forward. So I think I think you guys done a great job with the ideas and the things you came up with for the festival. But putting alcohol in the stadium, I'm not.
And our audiences are very respectful. I have to say that if you look into the audience, you know they're not there to get crazy and party. So I could see enjoying a wine as I listen to the Eagles or whatever. I could see that, but I don't want to create something we can't fix. And all you need is one incident that is illegal, and then it's a headline somewhere.
Right. And that mix with kids and adults and all of that, I'm not sure how you police all that, so.
Yeah, they're so different than gin and tonic.
Right, so, but, anybody else want to weigh in on?
I don't necessarily associate an event where alcohol is available with being family unfriendly. I've been to plenty of baseball games where that certainly wasn't the case. I mean, it can work, but as you say, it's another level of management, a little more control, and you got pretty big crowds. If there was, and when you put in here jumping in with 6 events where you'd like to serve alcohol, seems like jumping in the deep end. Was there possibility? You said that one time there was 2. Which 2? Or would you want to try it somewhere and say, hey, this didn't work for us, or what a mess? I mean, I don't necessarily say that having alcohol available is, as I say, it's not necessarily an unfriendly thing, but it does complicate things.
Right.
And as you say, it's something else you've got to police and something you have to manage, which you have no experience doing.
Correct, and it's city property.
It is, but we have other events on city property where we authorize sale of alcohol. Typically, very different venue, very different type of event. I do worry about the large crowds. And for that, I agree with Jerry that, on Friday and Saturday, when the crowds are large, you just made the problem potentially a lot worse. So I would be fine if you didn't offer alcohol, if your committee was serious about having it, if they could scale back with their request and explain to us how it's going to work. I'd be interested in hearing that. The rest of it, I applaud you for taking the step back. I think most people in the community have come to realize Coast Guard Festival is a very large and rather disruptive thing that serves its purpose, but it gets to be kind of the elephant in the room here. It gets to be a very large and ungainly thing. So toning it down, stepping back is probably a good move. And what you've described sounds good to me. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate the recalibrating of it. As far as the alcohol, I might be open to it, but I guess I'd like to see more detail and on a small or a pilot scale, just so you get some idea whether it really is going to work for you or whether it's going to turn an otherwise successful event into something troublesome.
Sorry, I have a cold this evening, so I kind of sound like Pat, I think. Kind of gravelly throat. Yeah, there you go. I think I appreciate the concept of, I'm going to call it quality over quantity this year. And the fact that vendors are still in line to book, even though you've raised the prices significantly, does show what a success this festival is. And Grand Haven is a special place and people love to come here, so I love that. And it's great to have that validated with a line of people still wanting to get in. As far as, I think we're all weighing in a little bit on the alcohol. I don't see alcohol as Bob said, anti-family friendly. Obviously, it can be abused and it becomes issues. It becomes an issue. We've taken our boys to concerts at Frederick Meyer Gardens, seen Five for Fighting and a few other bands with the boys, and I'll usually get a beer and sit there and enjoy and listen to the music, and it obviously doesn't interfere with the event, and I enjoy being able to have a beer. As far as the concept of scaling down and jumping in with both feet, given the other potential risks, I'm looking at the calendar and the events here, and I see that if I were going to go see Bruce Springsteen or the Rolling Stones on either Friday night, that might be a great night to do a trial run as far as an alcoholic beverage is concerned. So if the committee were to come back with that, I'd vote in favor of that as a trial, or maybe some hybrid thereof, but that'd be my thought on that. So thank you. Appreciate the heads up and working with the city and working on cleaning up things down there. And forgive me if I've gotten that wrong satisfaction. I'm assuming that's a Rolling Stones band.
Yes.
But I could be wrong.
It is.
Okay, good, all right. I can't get no.
That's probably not a strong alcohol crowd, but
Well, there you go, yeah.
not going there.
We'll stick with Bruce then.
Yeah, Bruce, yeah. I have to agree, Josh. I've gone to Meyer Garden many, many times. I mean, I'm kind of a regular there, so. And it's a family-friendly location. Alcohol doesn't seem to be a problem at all. Maybe Saturday night with the fireworks and all might be a little bit more hectic for you to control. You need to have a lot of people around, wristbands and whatnot, and you got to be able to have them. Like at Meyer Gardens, they have people that are patrolling all the time, looking and watching and seeing what's going on. It's going to be a control thing for you. It's going to be really, really a lot more intense than what you think. Just even doing just the entertainment tents at the Eagles, they hire a security firm to come in, and that's what they do down there. So, but scale back and everything you've done, I appreciate it. Just like Josh says, quality is. It's Grand Haven, that's what we are, that's what we expect. We expect quality anyways, and most everything we do here. So I'm a strong supporter of whatever you guys decide. If you can get the alcohol, and if you do get it under control, I don't see a problem with it with the rest of the days except for possibly Saturday because of the fireworks and distraction that would be going on down there pretty much. But when you're having it controlled during the rest of the week with the other concerts and that, it can be controlled. But that's a decision I'd like to see how and when and what you're gonna do if this does get passed for that. That's what I'd like to see, but,
Well, I think we'll go back and investigate if the board is serious about offering it. They need to come up with a plan that works. The Department of Public Safety, and I'm not speaking for them, but they were involved in several conversations that suggested that on certain nights that might add literally and figuratively fuel to the fire. So we're not looking to create more than we need to either. So I'll bring it back to the committee, and if we're serious about it, we'll be back with a plan.
that's what I'd like to see.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, the theme this year is saluting the men and women of the Coast Guard, which is always the theme. But this year, it's Everyday Heroes, Centuries of Service. And so this is the pins.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Hey, put that right in.
By the way, what's that?
I wanted that to be a police car.
Ah,
We're working on that.
The imagery is like,
it says in the middle of the intersection of Washington and First, something large to fill up space.
Fire truck?
So what is that?
Any other questions about planned activities or otherwise?
Oh, sounds good to me, and always excited for festival to come around, so it's...
Thank you for taking the opportunity to represent us officially at the Change of Command in Cleveland.
Yes. we'll be
The
there.
Admiral is very excited that Grand Haven, of all places, is sending a significant delegation, and she's very pleased that she made a positive impact here.
Awesome. Well, we've seen Admiral Noonan for, several years, so it's, I don't know where she's going next, but
Washington,
Washington,
Coast Guard
DC.
headquarters. She
Oh,
is
okay.
on a path towards higher universes.
Wow, well, good for her.
So,
She does
yes.
a good job. So, we'll be looking forward to seeing her.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mike?
All right, our second item on our work session agenda, Derek is on his way up, the citywide infrastructure valuation audit.
Good evening, Your Honor, Council. Part of the city's asset management program is to come and develop a plan on how to replace our assets as they're needed. And part of that is what are we looking at as an overall scope? What is the value of this in terms of what we own, so we can gauge the necessity over time. So I enlisted some pro bono help from our engineers in Avamarsh with an idea of we have this amazing geographical information system that has all of our assets, or most of them anyways. We're always tuning it to enumerate the amount of assets we have in each part of the systems that we operate out in the street and right-of-ways. So one of them, or the first one, is water systems. And so we took those numbers and with general and current 2019 dollars, we put a value to that. We know what it costs to replace a fire hydrant or an 8-inch water main. How many feet do we have, and how many mains or hydrants do we currently own? And we were able to put a number to that. And currently, the water system is valued at in today's dollars, if we need to replace it, at almost $120 million. So, excuse me. And so we did the second, the next utility we did was sewer system. How much sewer main and laterals and the lift stations that we have. What was the value of that? And surprisingly, that was over another $100 million in value. And while we're not interested in replacing all of our assets in one shot. and we don't need to. We've rebuilt some of them, but the vast majority of them are in some type of need. The third one we looked at is our storm sewer system, which is probably one of our newest systems, because our sanitary sewer system was the storm sewer system for a long time, like many municipalities. So it's the newest one, but it's kind of been hodgepodge together over the years as we've separated those sewers. And that utility is worth just over $60 million. And then the last one, our street system. You know, what is the cost to replace all of our roads tomorrow, which was kind of one of the numbers that we're like, are we making a dent at this or not? Well, the street system was worth over $250 million. And so these are big numbers, and real big numbers, and they take a lot of time and thought to say, how do we tackle this problem? We can't eat the elephant whole, one bite at a time. How do we tackle this? So all in all, the entire utility system and infrastructure, just in the road right-of-ways. We didn't count the sewer plant. We didn't count the water plant. We didn't count our facilities, the city's buildings, or the marina. This is just our roads, Washington and Beechtree and Jackson and Grand Avenue. All of those totaled almost $560 million.
That's
Incredible, isn't it? If we wanted to build the city of Grand Haven again over tomorrow, we got to write a pretty big check. But that's not what we're interested in doing. We're looking to do a long-term sustainable process, and with the millage that you voted on to seek the voters, this is the kind of asset that we're trying to maintain. And with 3 mills, that's a key. That's a key to the whole puzzle. It's not the solution for everything, but it's going to give us just one more key to turn and open to unlock on how to maintain these infrastructure assets. So the other thing I have here is a couple pieces of our infrastructure that you can see, because a picture or the actual asset is worth a million words. So I'm gonna step over there, I'll unveil it, and then I'll describe it.
You need a drum roll?
Alex wonders why I sat there.
Ta-da! Well, that looks like the picture out from my shop.
So the small case on top is actually 2 water services that were taken out of the ground over the last 12 months, probably 6 months, and a little description of where and why, and this is the actual condition of our water services. The other one on the bottom, the large one, is a full water service. Now this is the short side of the main. The main's on one side of the road typically, so this is from the main to the property line. But that is a lead service line, and everybody, it's one of those things nobody ever sees. We talk about, and our state government is requiring us to replace these. But there's one in full life that we removed actually in the last 6 months.
Is that the one you took from my shop?
That's not the one you took from your shop, no.
That's the one you
No.
took from my neighbor's house?
It might be. I don't have the address. But to be able to show people what this stuff really looks like and what's harmful and why we got to get rid of it. And the city's committed funds to replace those over the next 20 years as required by state law. And so anyways, it's just a visual aid to understand what our infrastructure is, the shape it's really in. We're going to have some more in the future come up, some more demonstrations or materials that we pulled out of the ground. But tonight I wanted to bring those 2 in, and our fine staff at the DPW built those displays for everybody to see. So some great talented people.
Well, absolutely. No, so that's what's under the ground after 50, 60 years, right?
Yes,
What it
yeah,
looks
that,
like.
that water service on the bottom is probably predates 1960, probably in the 50s or 40s. The one on the bottom in the small case, probably earlier than that. So
So this is the gooseneck. on
that is
bottom.
the gooseneck. So and there's a little bit of verbiage there to read, kind of describes what you're seeing. So
Okay, well, this is, as we continue to whittle away at our infrastructure, this shows as to why we keep whittling away at our infrastructure, is everything's older, and if you look at that, you say, yep, it's about ready to be replaced, I think.
Yes, absolutely.
Some of that is in pretty rough shape, so.
I was impressed with your 112-year total replacement schedule. That's stretching it out there.
Well, and so, currently we're at about 184 years. So again, this is the key. Some of our infrastructure can last 150 years with proper maintenance and investment in it. Some of it cannot. Some of the roads won't last that long.
Well, the key was that the investment in it. And it's always necessary to invest in it. Nothing lasts forever.
Right.
Nothing lasts without maintenance.
So anyways, I want to share that the information that we've been working on and some of the actual materials that we're getting rid of.
So if people want to take a look at what's under the ground, where is this going to be available?
We're going to keep it here at City Hall along with the maps, and then we have some more materials that we'll be putting on display probably early summer
All right.
coming up.
Okay.
Good.
So, want to see what's under the ground? Come on down.
Come on down.
Derek, I'm glad these are on the supply side. I'm not sure I'm looking forward to the removal side.
The removal
Visual
side,
display that you'll
the
be
collection
bringing.
system that we
Yeah.
own, not the distribution system.
All right. Anybody got comments? We're about to transition here to our council meeting.
Just want to say thank you, letting us know exactly what we have and cost and everything. And
Yeah.
very good, Derek, thank you.
We'll keep our eyes open for the next presentations.
It'll come shortly.
All right. Okay, that's awesome. So on that, we will adjourn our council work session and transition to our council meeting, Grand Haven City Council meeting. Linda, will you call the roll, please?
Manetza,
Here.
Bruger,
Here.
Scott,
Here?
Fritz,
Here.
McCaleb.
Here. Our invocation this evening will be given by the Reverend Dr. Jared Kramer, St. John's Episcopal Church, Grand Haven. Please remain standing after the prayer for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. O Lord, our governor, bless the leaders of our land, that we may be a people at peace among ourselves and a blessing to other nations of the earth. To the president and members of the cabinet, to governors of states, mayors of cities, and to all in administrative authority, grant wisdom and grace in the exercise of their duties. To senators and representatives and those who make our laws in states, cities, and towns, give courage, wisdom, and foresight to provide for the needs of all our people and to fulfill our obligations on our community. To judges and officers of our court, give understanding and integrity that human rights may be safeguarded and justice served. Teach our people to rely on your strength and to accept their responsibilities to their fellow citizens, that they may elect trustworthy leaders and make wise decisions for the well-being of our society. And Almighty God, our Heavenly Father, we ask this evening that you will send down upon those who hold office in this city of Grand Haven the spirit of wisdom, charity, and justice, that with steadfast purpose they may faithfully serve in their offices to promote the well-being of all people through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Switch here. At what point, I was going to ask you about presentation. Okay, so we'll do right there. Okay, all right, Cindy. Yep.
I'd like to do that pledge again when we get all the kids in here.
Oh, yeah. It always sounds good when there's a room full of
Does,
people.
full room.
Should have waited for him to enter.
We could do it again. There's no law against doing two pledges.
No, there's not.
right, it's always great to have a house full of folks. We've got some new appointments this evening,
New
appointments and
reappointments.
reappointments
This
for
is
our
to,
boards and commissions,
Yep.
so.
this is to appoint Alexa Reddick to the Human Relations Commission with a term ending June 30th, 2022, Robert Grimes to the Planning Commission with a term ending June 30th, 2020, and Carol Galbavi to the Main Street Board with a term ending June 30th, 2020, and to reappoint Catherine Roberts to the Cemetery Board with a term ending June 30th, 2024, Jack Kelly and Craig Porter to the Harbor Board with terms ending June 30th, 2024, Raina Masco and D. Wesley McGee to the Human Relations Commission with terms ending June 30th, 2022, and Robert Warren to the Main Street Board with a term ending June 30th, 2023.
All right, is there a motion for these appointments and reappointments?
So moved.
I'll second it.
All right, moved and seconded, comments or questions? If not, we will vote.
Manetza?
Yes.
Bruger?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
McCaleb?
Yes. Now, Mr. Grimes was not able to be here tonight, but Alexa Reddick and Karen Galbavi are ready to be sworn in.
Just raise your right hand, and I'll just read the oath, and you say I do one of them. I, Carol Galbavi, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Main Street Board in and for the City of Grand Haven, County of Ottawa, and State of Michigan, according to the best of my ability.
I do.
Okay, and then... And then Alexa? I, Alexa Reddick, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of the Human Relations Commission in and for the City of Grand Haven, County of Ottawa, and State of Michigan, according to the best of my ability. I do. Sounds like a plan.
We do the appointments, if people get sworn in. Reappointments, they've already been sworn in, it's just a continuation of their terms, and so they don't need to be resworn. That's why only those folks were sworn in. All right, at this point, I'm going to ask Cindy Cashmere to come to the podium and make her presentation. This is several years now. We've had students from our local schools do the artwork for our downtown banners, and so we're going to have Cindy tell us some more about that.
There. I do. I'll do. Do you want me to do it here, or do you want me to move up?
Well, you got to start at the microphone so that it's on the radio, and then we'll take it from there.
Thank you tonight to the City Council for allowing us to recognize our Grand Haven Arts students. Over the last 4 years, Main Street has been working with Mary Jane Evink, the art teachers, and the families, creating an invitation to students to design artwork with a specific theme. This year's theme was having fun in Grand Haven. Each year we select 6 pieces of art that we believe best represents the year's focus. The art teachers deliver the student artwork to C2C Gallery for consideration and communicate with the families. We very much appreciate Mary Jane, the teachers, and the families for their time and efforts to complete this project. The banners are produced locally by Olmsted Designs, and the city staff hang them throughout downtown and Centertown. They'll be hung through June through October. Tonight, each student will be given a banner with their art on it. A private citizen who loves Grand Haven anonymously provides this gift to the families. So we'll call each of the students up, and then we'll give them their banners now. And so, you can probably hear me. do we want to take them up and we'll let them?
Then we'll just line them up right here for
Yeah.
a photo with both their names.
Do you want to do yours or should we?
Oh, sure. If I mess up somebody's name, I apologize ahead of time. Oh, okay, all right. All right, so the first artist is River Allen. So River, you want to come on up? Yeah. All right. Then we got to see what your banner looks like. It'll be,
You know what you should probably do? Why don't you turn around and let them see it?
yeah. Hold on, I'm going to stand up.
Just back up just a hair.
Yeah, there we go.
All
You can all
right.
see it. Nice.
Awesome.
Turn back up.
That's good.
All right, our second artist is Mady Bell. Now you-
Okay. So roll it back down to not bigger than you are. I didn't have a problem. So let them see it first. Let
That's
them
an
all see it.
that's an advertisement for a sandcastle contest.
I know.
Yes.
Just let them hear. You go right here. That's
Very
okay.
nice.
And then you turn back around.
Good work.
Right there. Good job.
Okay. Our next artist, Mohammed Idris. Oh, he's a Coast Guard Festival guy.
Oh, yeah.
Looks like the Mackinac ought to be.
Right here, so we'll make room for everybody. Okay. There you go.
And Nathan Burns.
You're taller than everybody else.
Brown Pops.
Good work. Round up, man. Way to go.
Good work, Nathan.
You guys want, you can slide them just a little bit.
All right.
A little bit.
Next artist, Carmen Tolliver. Oh, all right, Coast Guard City. Too bad Mike left. Good work.
Stay up.
What- Saving the best for last. Fisher Mansilla.
Fisher graduated, I think, last week.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
That is awesome.
Guys got Memorial Day, the
Go
fountain.
ahead, you can just stand right here.
In
I know
Sherwood.
Oh,
It's got everything.
Mrs. Alexander, why don't you take a
talent.
picture?
Yeah, we'll hang out here for photo ops. Go ahead, folks.
Don't hide your face, Mohammed. Hiding.
Give it.
You guys did a fantastic job.
Yeah, you guys are really good.
All right, thank you, guys.
And the next contest will be how to find your banner downtown.
Yes, that's right. You go ahead, you can read my notes.
Oh, yeah.
So go ahead and, these are all hung now, I think. So you come on downtown and look for your artwork and have a fun summer.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Cindy. Awesome.
No, she got it back.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
I got them in my picture.
Oh, perfect.
And on there, all their names are on there.
All right. Thanks for coming, kiddos.
They didn't have to leave.
Well,
They could have stayed for the whole
they
meeting.
could have. They don't know what they're missing, so.
Yeah.
Maybe they do.
All right, we are to the approval of consent and regular agendas. So are there any changes?
Well, Your Honor, a couple things I'd like to review with the city council before we consider the agendas. I did get some concern about the request for 3 different things at 18 Washington Avenue. One is a parking exemption, the other is a major encroachment permit, and the other is a semi-permanent sidewalk cafe license. There was some comment that I received from a few elected officials about wanting to hear from the DDA and Planning Commission, perhaps before you considered all three of those things. So I'm not sure if you want to adjust that resolution, if you want to wait until you hear from the Planning Commission that will be doing site plan review of the semi-permanent sidewalk cafe license at their June 11th meeting, I believe. And then the DDA meets on June 13th, before your June 17th meeting. So I guess I leave it to City Council if you want to do either postpone consideration or adjust consideration to perhaps only include the cafe license, or I wanted to see how you felt about it, or if you just want to leave it on the agenda as it is.
Well, since we okay the cafe license, I think that I would be comfortable with moving forward with that. With the rest of it, I would like to hear that Planning Commission and DDA weigh in on the other options, so.
And I guess I feel about the opposite. We okay the cafe license after Planning Commission has reviewed the site. And that's not happening.
Okay.
So, I mean, to me, I feel similar that we're premature, but for the different reasons.
Okay.
I mean, I think Planning Commission should have done the site work on the semi-permanent cafe license before we got it.
So if that's the feeling of City Council, you could, I'm sorry.
No, I'm going to agree that we've got a process that we typically follow, and Planning Commission at the very least reviews. I understand out of respect to the DDA to send it to them for some input. Again, non-binding, but, you know, just as a courtesy, I think that's a good thing to do. So, yeah, perhaps for different reasons, but similar conclusions, so.
Yeah.
And I agree, I think we need to go through the process. So I wouldn't mind postponing this until it does do that, bring it through the process, then bring it back to us.
Of course, Jennifer's standing in the back.
I was
Maybe
just
she has
gonna say,
other information to give to us that we don't.
Jennifer, you want to step forward and
give.
give us some information more? It might help us a little bit here.
Jennifer Howland, Community Development Manager. I did share this request with the DDA, and the DDA chair came back and said that this is not a concern of theirs, so I feel like they're aware of the request, as much as they're ever aware of requests that go to Planning Commission and City Council. So we have a good communication with the DDA, making sure they know what's going to be on the agenda that relates to their district. So I feel comfortable that they know what's going on. In terms of the process, Planning Commission, City Council first. The Pavilion Wharf already had a sidewalk cafe license agreement, so this is transferring it over to the new owner. The footprint itself is no different. The only difference is that they're proposing an elevated platform so they can walk out from the first floor onto this additional outdoor seating area. They're going to be doing some facade changes. So there'll be a different enclosure. And the seating, the number of seats out there in the same footprint is going to be a bit higher than what Pavilion had before. And knowing that they were also looking at these other encroachments and the parking exemption, which relates to the sidewalk cafe, we wanted everything in front of you tonight so you could get the full picture, knowing that the Planning Commission will be reviewing this as a site plan review in a couple weeks. So that's why you have it today.
Well, if I may, where the footprint is similar to the existing sidewalk cafe, it's a different configuration. And it has to be reviewed for consistency with the ordinance, and that should be done by the Planning Commission. It isn't simply a transfer, it's a new ownership, it's a new configuration, different seating. So it's not just an automatic rubber stamp. So I think that would be appropriate, and the process would also mean that if we look at it and say, yes, we like it, that would prejudice the Planning Commission, just give us what we asked for. So I still think that that's an inappropriate order to do things in. So if this does stay on the agenda, I probably wouldn't be supportive of that piece of it.
Okay.
Not that I'm not supportive of the sidewalk cafe, but I think this needs to be reviewed properly.
The Planning Commission will be given a sample motion that includes a condition of council approval if you're not acting on it tonight. Same with tonight, it would be appropriate to have a condition that Planning Commission approve it as well. So it's kind of a chicken and the egg thing a little bit. from our perspective, so. But I appreciate your perspective as well.
We can change the motion to have it go toward, planning commission approval.
That's the normal process, and I think that's, you know,
If we okay
if we
it
make a
tonight, we can
decision,
add
then
that.
that, like say Bob said, we're gonna, you know,
Could
we're
we,
gonna
we-
telegraph that.
could we parse this out and pull that piece of it out and just look at the encroachments? Because those are unrelated to the sidewalk cafe.
Well, that's why I don't have an issue with the sidewalk cafe. I do have an issue with the parking exemption and the major encroachment.
And those are totally different issues all lumped into one.
Right.
That's why I'm wondering, should we just separate them?
I don't mind going with them all, except for just having it go with the planning commission approval, if they approve it and get a recommendation.
So then we would not act on this tonight?
I'd like that, I don't mind acting on it,
Well,
with just changing the wording a little bit so that planning commission gets their voice on it.
Anything that we do is going to tell it, you know, it's gonna make the planning commission look at it differently, so I don't think that it's good for us to weigh in before it goes to planning commission.
that's kind of the way I feel.
Having sat on the complaining, ooh, yeah, I need another Tylenol or something. Having sat on the planning commission and had decisions of ours trumped by city council in advance of us making a decision, I can say that I'd just as soon not do that tonight. And given all the different questions here, I think it'd be best to make a motion to remove item B, postpone item B until, Bob, help me out on this one.
Well, I would just take it off the agenda.
Or just remove it from the agenda at this time.
Yeah, I chaired the planning commission for 5 years, and I never appreciated when council chimed in until after we had a chance to discuss it. So I'm kind of defensive of them.
You can tell I am a little bit too.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to remove item B from the agenda tonight.
Well,
If I could, there are a couple other adjustments that maybe you could move the whole agenda as amended after I give you these couple others.
okay.
Item 13A having to do with the Young Professionals Slide Through Summer special event. I did hear today from the insurance carrier that they do not have an insurance policy at this point, so I don't think it would be appropriate for city council to consider that tonight. That would be one of the most critical items. So I think we can take that off the agenda for now. I would not present that to city council without clear evidence of a significant insurance policy naming the city as additional insured. And at this point, we don't have evidence of that policy being in place. And finally, if we could add under the consent agenda, probably, we've got a resolution recognizing North Ottawa Community Hospital's 100 years in front of you. That event is next Thursday night, the 13th of June, and we hope to have a nice proclamation resolution to present at that event, and it's a typical recognition document that I don't think would be needing any debate, and I'd like to add that to the consent agenda.
Okay.
So,
Does anybody else have any?
no, that covers my concerns.
All right, okay, so I will ask for a motion to accept the agenda with these changes, the addition of the hospital resolution,
12,
the
12C.
deletion of item A under new business and item B under new business.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All right, so we're ready to vote.
Bruger,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Fritz,
No.
Manetza,
Yes.
McKaylen.
Yes. All right, general business, call the audience. This is one of two opportunities for anybody to address council on what's on their mind. So if you would like to step up to council, if you want to make a comment, tell us who you are and where you live. And if nobody wants to avail themselves of this process at this point, we will move on to reading the consent agenda.
Okay, this is to approve the special work session and regular council meeting minutes of May 20th, 2019. Approve the bills memo in the amount of $322,282.57. And approve a resolution of recognition for the North Ottawa Health System's 100th anniversary.
All right, is there a motion?
So, second.
Been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions on any of these three items on the consent agenda? If not, we are ready to vote.
Scott?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
Manetza?
Yes.
Bruegger?
Yes.
McCallum?
Yes. All right, in that case, we are moving to item C under new business.
Moving right
But
along.
does that now become item A? I don't,
Well, it doesn't matter,
Doesn't
because I don't
matter.
use the letters anyway.
all right.
Okay. This is to determine that the 25-year power purchase commitment and renewable energy transaction authorization approved by the Board of Light and Power with Michigan Public Power Agency at its meeting on May 16, 2019, is appropriate and necessary for the proper operation of the city's electric utility and is in accordance with prudent utility practices. The Board of Light and Power's designated authorized representative, the BLP General Manager, is hereby approved accordingly to sign the transaction authorization consistent with provisions of the BLP's current energy services agreement with MPPA. The administration recommends approval.
Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Been moved and seconded, and Dave Walters is here. Dave, do you want to address this briefly? Or not? Briefly?
You have a memo in your packet from myself to Pat McGinnis, kind of explaining what happened here, but I think I've been before you several times talking about renewable energy purchases, and for the most part, when we do that, we buy through the Michigan Public Power Agency into larger projects as a participant with other municipalities in the state. Approximately a year or so ago, I came before you and got approval for a wind energy purchased in the Thumb through MPPA with NextEra. It was originally classified as the Huron wind turbine farm, and that got canceled. So we swapped wind farm for another NextEra development that was in Tuscola County, and that too has run into a bit of difficulty. They received all of their land use permits, but one of the last things that they had to do was to get a FAA permit for a small airport that was located close to the turbines, and that resulted in about a third of the turbines being accepted or taken out of the development. So there has been quite a few problems locating wind turbines in the Thumb. That was to be Michigan's primary area of where they were going to locate these wind farms, but there has been quite a bit of pushback lately. I think the residents there have had enough turbines, so they're pushing back on putting more in. So the end result is that this particular farm that we had contracted for is now going to have a lower output. So our goal was to get to about 20% in 2022. So what MPPA is recommending is basically an energy swap. If you remember back a few months ago, we approved some solar energy projects, and what we were able to do is go back to one of those developers and actually enlarge that particular purchase a bit more. So we're getting a little bit more solar power and a little less wind, and the transaction actually is resulting in a net decrease in power costs. So the solar power that we're getting in place of the wind project is actually at a lower price. So in essence, the swap is resulting in about $100,000 a year of savings. So over a 25-year purchase, that's a pretty nice swap. So we're going to save about $2.5 million over 25 years. So we think it's a good transaction. It meets our goals and objectives as we originally proposed, and really keeps us at the same level that we were previous to this transaction. So with that, I'd ask, the BLP did approve it at its last meeting, and the process really is historically, if it's over a 10-year purchase, we bring that to you for your ratification and approval, and in essence saying that this is necessary for prudent operation of the electric utility.
All right, well, that's less cost is always good news, so
Yes.
appreciate that. Anybody else got comments for Dave?
In terms of the approval what we approved before, this is basically swapping one source for another, adjusting the costs. Does this adjust the term as well? Is it another 25 years? Did that reset? Is there anything else
No, what
different
what
about
we've
what we're
actually
approving?
done is, the contract that was signed, actually the contracts are between the developer and MPPA, and then we have a counter contract with MPPA that says anything that they go out and purchase, we have to, they have to have commitments. They don't have any load, MPPA doesn't, it's just their members. So what happened here is the contract that we actually have with NextEra is still in effect. And it was a contingent type contract that says we're gonna develop this amount. And that, in essence, since they aren't able to develop it, that contract just shrinks. And this replacement is a brand-new contract with the Assembly Solar, which we already have a contract with, but this is another contract for 25 years from the point that it goes commercial operation. So the NextEra project is going forward with its existing commercial operation date that will probably be sometime later this year. And then the solar project will be a couple years later under a completely different contract.
Okay, I thought that we were just modifying a contract. We are actually, in fact, replacing one, or putting in one.
Our contracts are with MPPA, so that contract is still the same contract that we always have, but MPPA is signing really another contract with Assembly Solar.
Okay, but from our perspective as city council, we approved the contract with MPPA,
Yes.
and that's still there. And so we're basically reaffirming what we did.
Yeah, and how that contract works is we have what's called an energy services contract with MPPA. That contract just allows for MPPA to enter into contracts and to pass those costs on to us. So that contract was actually signed in I think about 2012 or something like that. So we're not really approving any contracts here. We're just approving what we call a power purchase commitment. So that letter of authorization that you have in here basically is just signed by me after you give me the proper approvals, and it says to MPPA, we hereby agree to accept the commitment that you've gone out and got on our behalf.
All right.
So there's no new contracts, no amendments, no nothing that Grand Haven is entering into.
The day with the objective being 20% renewables by 2022,
Right.
what percentage, where are we at with this purchase included in that or prior to it, or, how does it help us along?
This contract, the swap is for about 2% of our power. In megawatts, it's about 6.5 megawatts, or excuse me, 6,500 megawatt hours per year. So it's about 2% of our needs right now. So we're essentially swapping 2% future wind for 2% future solar.
And where are we at right now with that objective of 20%?
We're required under state law to have 10% now, which is phasing up to, I believe it's 15%. So we're in compliance with the 10% rule. But how we're doing that is we're only getting about 8.5%, but we actually banked credits earlier years. So we're now using those credits from earlier years to get the 10%, and then we'll slowly phase up to 20% of our annual production. So we're actually, if you look at our purchases this year, we're about 8.5%, and we'll in 2022, when all of these come online, we'll be about 20%. And given the transactions that are out there today, solar energy in particular is very, very competitive. So I actually see us getting more in the coming years. And actually what's happening is the result of this being lower price is really the result of solar power getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. So if we would go out and sign a contract for 2023 today, it would be about 3 or 4% cheaper than 2022, and the same thing for 2024 or 2025. It just, they're planning on reducing their cost every year.
So this is unlike the landfill gas that we've been buying.
The landfill gas stuff is our most expensive transaction that we've made, and that was
How long are we still buying landfill gas? What are we stuck with there?
Some of it will begin rolling off in 2025. So it's we have I think it's a 20-year contract for the stuff that we bought in 2020 or in 2010. But the problem is that some of those were already into their life, and landfills only produce gas for so long, and then they start tailing off, so we will be slowly decreasing that transaction starting in 2025. But for instance, when we were forced to buy that, we're currently paying about 10 cents a kilowatt hour for that landfill gas, and this solar energy is less than 4 cents a kilowatt hour, so less than half the price of that higher priced landfill gas.
Nobody has to be concerned that we're buying a ton of that landfill gas. It's a pretty small part of our
Yeah,
portfolio.
it's about, the total volume of landfill gas is about 6.5% of our total right now. So it was not the best purchase at the time, but no one can read the future when you actually buy that stuff. So we were required to buy, there was a lot of people that bought solar power and wind power that's over 10 cents a kilowatt hour right now too at that time, so.
I remember when we bought the swamp gas, and I wondered at the time, how efficient is gas that comes out of a landfill, but we had, there wasn't a whole lot available, so we bought into that, so, who knew?
I just want to say thanks, Dave, for bringing this to us, and also a long time savings. It's better than what we had with the wind, of course. But as technology goes, you're absolutely correct. When technology for solar and that is getting better and better, the receptors that they make for them now is much, much better than it was even 2 years ago. It produces a much more higher output on them than they did before. So you're going to see solar be one of the big major things coming in all over. So thanks again, Dave.
Yep, sure.
Thanks,
Any
Dave,
questions?
Great,
thanks.
for doing that.
All right, thank you. We need to vote on this.
All right, probably better do that.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. I was just gonna move right along. I thought, no, we haven't voted yet.
Fritz?
Yes.
Manetza?
Yes.
Bruder?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Michaela?
Yes. All right, our unfinished business item.
This is to accept the quote and approve the contractor service agreement from CS Erickson in the amount of $40,920 for the installation of the catwalk electrical circuits for lighting and life rings, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents. The administration recommends approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Or seconded.
Been moved and seconded, and Dan?
Round two.
Good evening, Dan Vivian, Facilities Manager. This is for the electric service for the catwalk lighting and also for the life ring circuit. So it'll be three electrical circuits, brand new service starting from the stairs, and then all new rigid conduit starting from the stairs out to the entrance light.
So, is there 6 vents out there so far, or is it
Some more today.
5? Is it more came out today? I didn't have.
I don't know how many there are up. Last week there was, I think, just 3.
Okay.
Earlier last week, but I haven't talked to the
About
King
9.
Company since
Yeah,
earlier
there's
last
9
week.
or 10 out there now.
Is there? Okay, they must have
Drove
put
by
out
this
a couple
afternoon.
more sections.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the plan is to start as soon as they're done with the section between the lights.
Okay.
Electrical contractor and the life ring monitoring company will start doing the wiring then. And the deadline of the contract is 2 weeks after completion of the catwalk. So when they get it to the stairs, the contractor has 2 weeks from that point to have it complete, which shouldn't be a problem. They can chase King Company as they're, moving forward.
Okay. Well, it sounds exciting. I'm just tickled to see things going back up.
Yeah.
They said it was going to be this spring, and it is actually happening, so it's awesome.
So what's different from what we had in front of us 2 weeks ago? This was pulled off our agenda then.
Yeah, we had a pretty big difference in how the wiring was. So I went to Chris Bossard, who's the engineer that's working on the catwalk vents. And their company, I got their electrical engineer involved, and we just changed to a number 6 wire for the whole catwalk. Before it was, one contractor did a larger size wire for the first half and then downsized a little bit, looking for voltage drop. Once it was figured out, we figured we could just do it the 1 wire. So I sent that back to the contractors that submitted bids the first time. what exactly wire size, how many circuits we needed, and the exact amount of feet, and then this is what they came back with
Okay.
for.
Yeah, I was a little confused by the add alternate that's listed on this quote. I see that we're not taking the add alternate. There was an add alternate in the quote.
No, no.
And that made no sense at all to me, but the basic quote I understand.
Right.
All right, sounds good.
All sounds good. I also see that the quote there says a price increase in case of future tariffs that our president decides to go and puts more in, so it might cost us more if he keeps putting more tariffs on it. So I see that in the quote.
Yeah. A lot of contractors excuse me, when it's dealing with any type of metals.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff comes from.
It's just an automatic line they put in their quotes now, but I haven't experienced any increases after we've given people a contract.
I noticed that a lot of manufacturers I've talked to is that they don't know how to quote anymore because they don't know what's going to cost them for steel coming into the United States.
Right.
And it's very difficult for them. So it's understandable.
They'll just pad their quotes. That's all they can do. Thank you, and thank you for getting competitive quotes on this one.
Yes, sir.
And we're still good with the security cameras and all that, with the life rings, with that other, I'm trying to remember the name of the company, security, something.
State Security, yep.
Yeah.
Yep. They got the contract's been signed, is on way back to the city, so they're gathering parts. And they'll get started as soon as they can.
Are they gonna do it, can they do the same thing, do the between the lighthouses once they don't have to wait for the whole thing?
No, they'll be able to do, they're independent of the electrical contractor. The only thing they'll wait on is the power to their box, which their box is just east of the inner light.
Okay.
The signal box.
All right, sounds good. Anything else? I guess we're ready to vote.
Manetza?
Yes.
Bruger?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
Michaela?
Yes. All right, short agenda. We are on to report by city council. Who wants to start?
Oh, I don't mind.
Okay.
I think I got something written down here. Let's see. Memorial Day parade was absolutely fantastic. Like, it was such a large crowd. It's good to see the young out there for it. To always to be honoring those that gave the ultimate sacrifice. You know, it was. But we have freedom today, so this is what it's all about. It was a great parade, a good ceremony down at the waterfront at Lynn Sherwood. And we had our employee appreciation lunch, and I want to say thank you to all those that helped out. Denny, I want to say thank you to your wife for preparing the baked beans, which fueled our guys for the rest of the day. But I want to thank council for helping out with all that out there, so it was very nice. And because our public safety and all of our employees, should I say, is they put up with a lot during the summertime here. We have a lot of different things going on, and they're so busy and making sure our parks are good and our town is beautiful, and they take care of things very good. So it was one way for council to say thank you to them for putting up with everything that we've come across our table we say yes to. And I went to the beach safety zones they have out there, the beach safety hat at the waterfront and at the beach, and talking about the zones, the different zones out there, which will help direct our emergency crews to go if there's any kind of drownings or any happenings on the beach itself. Now they'll actually know where to go instead of trying to look for them. And also, as a good comment would be, if you are coming to Grand Haven and say your relatives are coming in, they're going, where you at? I says, well, I'm at the beach. And then now you can tell them, hey, I'm at zone 3, and they come in, they can find you a lot quicker and that. So there's a lot of different ways of using it. And Jerry and I have had a meeting with the BLP for the snow melt, and things are moving along pretty good. We've been assured that the snow melt is going to be operable, and that's what they are telling us. So we're working hard on it, trying to figure that all out for them, but it's moving forward pretty good. And I think that's about all I have to say.
All right, busy couple weeks.
Yes.
And And I also went to the parade and participated in that, and we did have a pretty good crowd out there, and I think went very smoothly. The memorial service at the stadium went really well, and I think those that were veterans and participated, I think it was very nice for them. I think had very good service over there for them. Also went to the fly-in at the airport, and that went really well until it started raining about 11:30 or so. But before that, the breakfast went really well. We had a lot of people out there. That really went well this year. And speaking of the airport, I think we have 54 planes and hangars now, more than we ever had. So I think the business out the airport is doing really well out there. So I think things are doing good. And the infrastructure asset management we heard about from Derek, I think that was a good report. Appreciate that, and it just shows we have a lot of work to do. That's all I have.
All right, thanks, Denny.
I'll go ahead. I attended many of the same events that everybody else up here has, and I'll leave it at that with my journal entries. Just as Denny said, the update from Derek on water and sewer and our asset management program, I think one of the key takeaways for me was that we're on currently a 112-year essentially replacement plan, and I think that's a great way to measure how we move or how we advance as we move forward and replacing our water and sewer. If we can shoot, for example, a 100-year replacement plan. And I think one of the key components to that is the millage that we've got coming up in November. Actually not asking folks to increase their taxes, but instead to work on a pay-as-you-go basis. And that's going to be an integral part of us being able to do more with our local dollars right here. So I'm thrilled with that presentation, and then the ability to measure our progress at a macro level. I think will be a huge benefit to us as we plan for the future. The only other comment I have is I really appreciate, really appreciate Jennifer, who's not here now, attempting to expedite the process of approval for the Long Road Distillery folks at 18 South Washington. I understand, obviously tonight we felt like the few things needed to happen first, but as far as getting businesses going in downtown Grand Haven and trying to streamline that process for them, I want to thank her for her efforts there, and Pat as well. And then finally, my last note is really appreciated Dave Walters' presentation, and I'm not sure if this is going to be a part of Pat's discussion either this evening or at a later point with the BLP, but having Dave come up to City Council on perhaps a quarterly basis to give us updates on the process with the plant, updates on energy, very similar to what our heads of other departments, Chief Hawk has done, Bonnie Suchecki has done with Human Relations, with the VLP being such a significant part of our community from a dollars and cents perspective. I think it'd be great to have him come and present to us, as I said, at least on a quarterly basis, maybe more frequently in time, or maybe more frequently for a time, while we work through the transition in energy and production, or accessing energy for the city of Grand Haven as we go forward. So those are my 3-4 comments. I'll pass it down to Bob. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, and I appreciated the presentation by Derek as well, and the very long timeline and the very large task of replacing, because everything that we make and everything that we use eventually wears out and must be replaced and repaired along the way. And what we're asking for a sustainable approach to doing that is barely sustainable. It's a very long timeline, and one of the problems of the pay-as-you-go idea is that it assumes that you can wait for the money to be there so you can make those repairs. Kind of got to jump on things in the past several years of borrowing money and using it, but now we're in a mode where we have to hope that we have the money coming in to fix things as they need to be fixed, and that some of these things really will last all these years. If not, then we'll be going to possibly looking for another way of fixing things as they break. But you have to have a plan, and you have to have a way of dealing with the things you know are going to happen. My favorite analogy that I like to bring up every time this comes up is if you're on a treadmill that you can't control and you can't get off it, you can't stand still either, you'll fall on your face. And that's what we could be doing. I appreciate the beach safety zone stuff as well, the Memorial Day Parade. I'd like to remind everyone, Feast of the Strawberry Moon is this weekend. Friday there will be a Kids' Day out on the island, and then Saturday, Sunday will be Feast of the Strawberry Moon. So if you're interested, come on out. I also would like to mention, I know there's been a little bit of back and forth between the city and Representative Lilly, but there's been new short-term rental bills introduced in Lansing, which are less onerous than the ones they've been entertaining, but they still don't necessarily give communities the home rule that we think we need and deserve. So we need to keep our eye on that and keep in contact, giving Representative Lilly a lot of credit. He's really kind of bucking the tide of state preemption in order to help out the community. So we'll just have to work with him and with others that are interested in keeping the cities in control of their own destinies. But we also need to watch the details, because the devil's in the details on all these. And finally, I spent the last week in Ithaca, New York with the Lakeshore Science Olympiad team. We went there for our national tournament. It's a very beautiful place, a beautiful campus at Cornell University. The kids really excelled. They worked very hard all the days we were there. Long drive out and long drive back. But while we were there, they worked hard. They took in everything they could, toured the campus, competed very well on Saturday, finished with the 10th place in the nation, which we were really proud. So that was my week. And that's all I've got.
Well, that's quite a bit. As a matter of fact, 10th in the nation, that's no slouch.
No.
We got some very, very talented young people in our community, and the fact that they're, and Bob being a longtime coach, I don't know how many years he's been coaching our
About
team.
20.
20 years, so Bob puts a lot of effort into that, and he does a really good job. So we're proud of our kids, and they're ongoing. This is an annual thing of placing, either winning or placing very high in the nation, and I think it's something that we can really be proud of in our community. So like everybody else, Memorial Day Parade is always one of my favorite events, to honor those that gave their lives for their country, so that we can live in freedom. Those that are here and those that are around the world, that they have fought for freedoms. I think we really, it's never forget and honor those that have given all, so that we can live pretty much in the lap of luxury here in this nation. So, and it's being involved in these parades for the last, close to 20 years, and seeing the folks that, some of them aren't with us anymore. And now there's only a couple of World War II vets left, and you've seen the majority now are Vietnam era vets, and hats off to these guys that they do so much. The Legion, the guys from the Legion, the guys from the VFW, they're whenever there's anything going on, the pinning ceremonies, they're there, funerals, they're there to honor those that have passed, and it's these gentlemen and that are part of these organizations just give it their heart and soul. And I said, man, you guys are everywhere. And they said, what an honor it is to celebrate these people that have gone before. So just appreciate all of those. And it came to light today because I got a phone call from somebody that our American Legion is going to be 100 years old. And we've had an American Legion in Grand Haven this is our 100th year anniversary. That's pretty darn impressive. So good on all of them. Always appreciate, this is something that I think Mike kind of started as the employee picnic. That's that we can serve our people before they, before they face the summer. We just want to say thanks to our really great employees that do so much to make our city beautiful, and it's just a little bit of thanks for the great job that they do. The beach safety, people come here to have a good time in the summer. They have a carload of people. We want to make sure they go home with that same carload of people that they came with. So I think this was a really good thing that our public safety, working with the DNR and Ottawa County and everybody to make this, because it looks like you know, you see red signs out there with numbers on them. Behind those red signs is a heck of a lot of work with a lot of different organizations to get permissions. Yes, you can put red signs with numbers on your beach so that you can save lives. So thanks for the persistence of Lee Adams and the rest of the folks that work so hard to get that out there. So thanks much. None of this is easy. It all takes a lot of work. Of course, the Dawn Patrol, that was a lot of fun. There was a lot of folks out there till the rains came down. And, excited to see the Feast of the Strawberry Moon. And I just want to say something about, you know, we've been working hand in hand with the BLP board now and getting, because we have a difficult task ahead of us with anything that we do as far as Harbor Island, the Sims plant, and anything new we build. So we are working hard, City Council subcommittee with the BLP subcommittees to get us to face the challenges that we have. And I think we're doing a good job of working together and understanding where each one of us is at. So, but it takes a united front to make this a completed task as we're going forward. It is a big job that we have ahead of us, and it's just really important that we continue that we build relationship and work together as we move forward with something that is we don't have a whole lot of time. We got 1 year before snow melt is going to need another source of power, because Sims will be retiring June of 2020. So there's still a lot to be done, but we're working hard at it. So good on us. So I'm going to throw this to Pat, the city manager's report, and he's got something of interest to tell us about.
Thank you, Your Honor. The first thing I wanted to cover is Colin Reinders is a young man who's got an idea about a business he'd like to kick off in Grand Haven. His request of the City Council will be to use small portions of city property, but I'll let him tell you a little more about it. I've got a PowerPoint presentation, and he's here tonight ready to share his vision with you briefly.
How's it going tonight? Thank you for having me out.
You bet.
So I would like to start a company in Grand Haven this summer. This company will be called Waveco, and if you would go to the next slide, I'll tell you a little more about it. So who am I? A little bit about me first. I'm Grand Haven born and raised. I've been here all 18 years of my life. Pretty awesome place. I've really enjoyed it. So I'm receiving a college education at Hope College for a business degree, and I'm currently pursuing my passion for entrepreneurship and innovation through this company I'm trying to start. So a little bit about Grand Haven traversability to kick it off. Grand Haven, as we all know, can get quite busy during the summer. We have a lot of street closures, we have festivals, and we have some of the best beaches in the world that draw an incredible crowd. So a lot of those issues create traffic buildup through downtown Grand Haven and the state and city beach areas. So I was thinking, how can I start to get at that traffic issue and help Grand Haven while also performing a business service? My idea is in the form of electric scooter rentals. So these electric scooters, the new market that this business is classified into is called micromobility, and it's emerged in the last couple of years in the form of companies called Bird and Lime scooters. In essence, micromobility is the rental of electric scooters and electric bikes and the following is true with Waveco as well, as we will be offering electric scooter rentals as an alternative method of transportation to citizens and tourists looking to try a different method of moving around Grand Haven. So these scooters have a max speed of around 15 miles an hour. The range on the battery of those scooters is between 25 and 28 miles. These scooters are GPS tracked, and you can set up GPS boundaries of where you would like the scooters to be able to operate within or not operate within. Per se, someone is doing something that they're not supposed to on a scooter, or they're going outside of a bound designated by me or the city, they will be prompted by an alarm, and if they fail to stop whatever they are doing, the scooter will disable itself. So it's got some backup systems on it. The scooters will be parked at scooter docks. So imagine like a bike rack, but for a dock. So these scooters these racks don't need electricity or anything. They're just merely a dock. So And starting like a business like this, there's a lot of issues that could happen. There's liability. Cities have become frustrated with and took up fault with other companies because people see the scooters as a nuisance. Some of these companies would just show up and they would dump their scooters, and it would become an issue because they would be laying all around the city. So I approached Pat a while back and let him know that I was coming. I figured that's probably a good thing to do. In that conversation, he shared a lot of good insights with me. In figuring out how to tackle these insights, what I ended up doing was developing a new alternative method of how these scooters would function. So with a company like Bird or like Lime, their scooters are left all over. And it's cool because you can hop on a scooter and you can ride it to wherever you want and leave it wherever you want. But the only way that works is they flood the streets with these scooters, and it just becomes like a nuisance, and it becomes a liability issue because someone could trip on them. So in solving that, I designated some zones. These zones are where like the scooters will be parked, and they must be parked there, otherwise they will be fined, and there's several redundancies to make sure they do park there. These docking zones, I prepared a little diagram of where I would like these zones to be. So to start with, I will be renting the Wessels property from Steve Vink. This will be kind of my base of operations. This is where I will be present at if someone needs to talk to me, where I will do scooter repairs as well as recharge. I would like to have a zone at the Chinook Pier, a zone in the Grand Haven City parking lot out by the courthouse, at the old trolley turnaround by Fisherman's parking lot, the YMCA parking lot, as well as the city beach and possibly Noto's. As I've been talking with Tony Noto, and he thinks he would like one, but it's something we need to discuss more. Collaboration and the future of Waveco. As Waveco's business front is not something as simple as Buffalo Bob's shop. It's rather the city. The city is this company's wavefront, or this company's storefront. Therefore, I very much look forward to collaboration with the city. It's your property, therefore it is my duty to collaborate with you guys and ensure that not only is my business successful, but also we're tackling some of the concerns of Grand Haven and Grand Haven citizens. I see future collaboration between Waveco, myself, and the city, even going further to something like rental e-bikes, possibly tourism services, and maybe even one day some software geared towards the pursuit of permanently reducing traffic in Grand Haven. So now is a good time for any questions you may have developed during the presentation, as well as questions that you may have had prior.
All right, well, these things are always intriguing to me. But because of my nature, I think about the things that could go wrong, and I apologize, but like if I don't know what I'm doing.
I would love to hear them.
Okay. If I don't know what I'm doing and I get one of these scooters and it, I guess I would start out with, you've got to know how to skateboard or something similarly that it doesn't leave without you, right?
So with these scooters, if you'll actually go to the next slide, as you will see in the business operations on like the customer side of the app, there's a tutorial for the first ride. So say you have no idea what this scooter even is, this app this tutorial will give you a good explanation of what the scooter is, how you can be safe on it, how to respect people around you. And it's pretty much as simple as being able to balance like you would on a bike, except I would even say a little easier.
Okay.
Did that solve your question? Or?
Well, yeah, that it's good to have a tutorial to know what to expect.
Right.
You know? And not let it get away from you. So, the other thing is they're on the street, right? Not on the sidewalk, because you can't be on the sidewalk for certain months out of the year. Besides, the sidewalks are bumpy.
Right. Well, the tires are actually quite big. It's almost like an off-road scooter. Not that I would want people going off-roading with my scooters often, but they are designed to absorb bumps to even per se go off a curb if someone was so bold enough. So I wouldn't encourage any of that behavior, as it will be in the liability portion of the app, accepting that you will not only respect others but my property. But it's a pretty well encompassed scooter.
Okay, so say I get one at Chinook Pier and I want to go to the museum. So in front of the museum, what do I do with your scooter?
Yeah, so I don't know if I explained it well enough, but with these zones, you can only park the scooters in those zones. So I strategically tried to create like a well laid out format of where these zones will be in Grand Haven. So you couldn't per se go exactly to that museum, but you could park at the nearest scooter rack in the designated area and then proceed to go to the museum. So say you're down at Noto's, you just had a delicious dinner at the newest place, and you're trying to get all the way back downtown Grand Haven. As you can see, it's a little bit small. I don't know if you will be able to see, but there's a big loop going around. That's about a 28-minute walk from Noto's to downtown Grand Haven. So rather than taking that 28-minute walk, you could pay a couple bucks, hop on one of my scooters and cruise all the way down to your destination or the zone closest to your destination.
Okay. Could be fun. Could.
It could be fun as well as convenient.
Been on a skateboard, so it'd be a lot of fun.
Are there any other questions I could answer? There's a lot that you guys could ask me about. I'm here.
So it's $2 for how long?
So it's $1.50 for the initial rental of the scooter. And then there's going to be a per minute fee of renting the scooter. So unless you're going for like a half an hour cruise, it's really not going to amount to more than a couple bucks. Maybe you really are enjoying the scooter and you want to go for a long cruise though, who knows?
It's interesting.
So how many of these do you expect to have in service at any given time?
So I would like to start with around 30 scooters.
30?
And that may sound like a big number, but if you would look at a company like Bird or like Lime, they show up to big cities and they just drop hundreds and hundreds of them. Grand Haven is smaller, so obviously I wouldn't drop hundreds and hundreds if I was looking to drop a lot. But when you divide those 30 scooters amongst, say, 6 docking zones, there's only going to be about 4 to 5 scooters at them. So what I'm going to really need to do is learn how to balance those scooters, because I'm assuming a lot of them are going to end up down at the state park. That's just one of the main destinations. So I'm going to have to, me myself, go collect those scooters and rebalance them so that there's a fair amount of scooters at each zone.
So what if you get sand in your scooter motor? What?
They're commercially designed scooters, and therefore they're completely waterproof. I'd hope they don't take a swim in the channel, but they're completely waterproof, weatherproof, and I'm assuming they can take up some sand, and if not, that is something I will need to take into account with the future scooters I buy, knowing that I need to account for sand.
Well, the reason, because that sand is like one of the, it's one hardness below diamonds. It'll tear up just about anything, so you might want to check into that, make sure they're sand resistant.
That'd be a good one.
Yeah.
So as you talk about rebalancing where they end up, because you expect a lot of them to end up in one place, you're going to have sufficient docking capacity in a place like the beach, so people can leave several of them there. But other places, might only expect to have 3 or 4 or 5.
That's correct, and I will also need to, it will be a trial and error process. I can do my best guess of how many docking sites I'm going to need at each zone for the scooters, but just like a business, I'm going to have to learn. So if one area needs more, then either I will have another dock that I will move to that zone, or per se I'll just have another one built, so therefore there's more docking areas there.
Have you looked at other companies or other communities that are doing this and seen how they're doing it and what their results have been, or is there nothing comparable?
Yeah, so this market of micromobility, like the rental of these type of scooters, has happened over the last 2 years. Majority of this business is done by big companies like Lime and Bird, and they like to predominantly take over like these big cities. So here I am, I'm trying to be entrepreneurial, so I figured I'd see if I could apply that to Grand Haven, because Grand Haven's awesome.
So you're breaking ground here.
Yeah, I am. So there are other startup scooter companies, and they usually take the same approach as Bird and Lime, but I wanted to try and solve some of like the liability issues and some of the other issues that you guys could see or concerns you might have with having free roaming scooters. So that is why I chose to do this specific model. And there's not too much research behind this specific model, but it's actually, when I say that there's not too much research, it's actually like a better form of the free range scooters. So it's essentially taking this big system that's kind of unregulated and regulating it into almost like a bus stop system, a bus stop or like a bike rack. Like you know where you're gonna go to get your ride, and it's usually, if I do my job right, it will be there.
Sounds relatively complex, actually, so you got your work cut out for you.
It's been fun.
So if you're going down like a bike path, is that, when you're riding one of these things, is that it's like a max speed of 15 miles an hour?
Correct.
Is there a, sometimes things have like a rabbit start. Can you know, what happens at 7.5 miles per hour? You have to go at 15 miles per hour in order to be stable, because if there's a lot of people in your way and you're zipping around them, like, how do you propose that that's gonna work?
Yeah, they're actually quite stable. You could probably be going like 1 mile an hour on them and still be okay. It's kind of like a throttle system, so you as a driver get to go how fast you want to go. If per se they were allowed on the boardwalk, which I would be all right with not allowing them on the boardwalk.
Okay.
But if you were, there's bikers already on the boardwalk. There's people on their skateboards, and you don't see them just zipping around if it's crowded. Like, people in general are going to use some common sense, and I don't think that someone on a scooter is going to be going 15 miles an hour through a tightly packed group.
That's why I wondered if it's stable at a relatively slow speed.
Yeah, and it actually has like a built-in, so per se you hop on and you just floor the throttle down. It's not going to just jump out at you. It's got like that system built in, knowing that people are going to make mistakes, and it will gradually speed up. It also has an electric braking system on the left side, as well as a back brake in case that does not work. So it's not as much of a moped, if that's what you're imagining, as it is an adult-sized Razor scooter with a little motor on it.
Okay. That describes it pretty well.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but my faith in common sense has been a bit shaken over the years, so we hope that works. I have another question. It's not necessarily, maybe for you, maybe for Pat. There's a memo that was forwarded to us by Jeff Hawk, our Chief of Police, talking about some of the rules and regulations, and I guess my question is, there's a Public Act 204 of 2018, which talks about electric skateboards, and apparently there's state-level regulation in place. To what extent can local municipalities exercise authority or control, and to what extent has the state already occupied the regulation of these?
Well, the state, the excerpt that Jeff referred to is this type of conveyance is not considered a motor vehicle. So that would suggest that you could operate it on a sidewalk or, in places where motor vehicles are typically prohibited. Now, on your boardwalk, you've got an ordinance that says skateboards are prohibited on the boardwalk.
So is it similar to some of the other regulations we've seen from the state, that if it's comparable to something else, you have to treat it like that's something else? So you'd have to regulate these the same as you would a skateboard?
Not necessarily. I mean, if you guys didn't want to call it a skateboard, you don't need to, but it seemed like that was the closest thing we could come to in our ordinances. You do say no skateboards on the sidewalks downtown between Memorial Day and Labor Day, and then no skateboards on the boardwalk. And Colin had suggested to me that he could get along with not having them on the boardwalk, but they're street legal. I mean, you can ride them around on the streets, you can ride them on sidewalks.
Yeah, we authorized people to ride skateboards on our streets a long time ago.
Yeah. So some of the things that the chief pointed out I just wanted to emphasize that we're fortunate to have a local business person coming before us and talking about it, because they are street legal, they're not a motor vehicle. So these other companies, they just come in and dump them everywhere. And they're legal, unless they're abandoned laying on the side of the road, people can run around with them and use them. So it's nice to have somebody you can lay your eyes on and your hands on and talk to them and say, hey, what's up with all these scooters? They're in the wrong places, you need to pick them up, and very accessible, and somebody we can talk to. I spoke with the city manager in East Lansing at some length about these, and he said that was one of their big frustrations when they first showed up. They didn't know whose they were or where they came from. The university just automatically prohibited them, so they started impounding them right away. The city allowed them for most of the school year, but now they're all gone. They've pulled them all out of there, and they're no longer in East Lansing. So that was probably a failed experiment for those two big companies. But in this case, he's starting small. He's given us a chance to see how it works. And the request of City Council at your next meeting would be, can he occupy some of these public areas with his racks?
Okay, and that would be, we probably can't franchise this in any way or treat it like with some of our other private utilities, but making it accessible to city property would be the way we would give this business a more favored treatment than somebody who just came in and dumped a bunch of scooters on the streets. In other words, the person that we get to deal with, we give them access to public property, and that's the buy-in on our part.
Yeah, you could say that spot at Chinook Pier, we would get with Colin and figure out where we're gonna locate those. And then they need to be in those docks, and we'd be clear with Colin that if they're not in those docks, we're not gonna grab them immediately, but after, say, 24 hours, we might pick them up and then charge him for, be an impounding fee. So he'll have some motivation to keep an eye on them and go around and pick them up. And I wanted to ask him, you mentioned you'd check them each day. Is that gonna be you, or you're gonna have employees that drive around and pick these up and recharge them?
Yeah, so as of now, I will start doing it myself. Once I get the certificate that allows me to hire employees, that necessary information, then I will hire maybe a couple of my buddies if I need help balancing the scooters, if I need help making sure the scooters are properly off the streets so that they don't get impounded. So that will start to happen pretty quick, and I will make sure that I'm diligent about the scooters. Another thing I might add is, you were talking about kind of like your buy-in earlier, and these scooters should actually do great service to the city. I'm imagining that every single business owner will really like them because it's getting more people to move around without creating the big traffic jams of each individual driving a car. So instead of having someone downtown Grand Haven hop in their car and climb into the traffic jam to get downtown, rather they can just hop on a scooter and save that traffic. So I've actually talked to like Buffalo Bob's and a couple other businesses, and they're like, oh, like this is cool because maybe more people will be able to get into our business. Like our parking lots won't be filled with unused cars because people actually took a scooter down to the beach rather than leaving their car in my lot. So not only is it a business that may benefit me, but also it will be great to the city in the fact that it will help reduce some of that traffic and some of that congestion, allowing more people to get in and out and go as they please.
And I would just point out the one that you designated as a city lot, I think that's the county courthouse parking lot. So that we'd need to talk to the county about getting permission to be there.
According to Google Map or Apple Maps, it showed up as Grand Haven City parking lot.
That's because we conned the county into letting us call it that. Yeah, they've been very generous. The county, we didn't have to comment at all. We asked the county if we could mark that as a city lot, and they allowed us to do that. So it is operated like that, but technically it's county. And it's a good place, I think, to put them because it's often open and available.
So instead of someone, per se, showing up into a parking lot and then they had to park all the way up there because every other parking lot's full and there's a huge traffic jam. Instead of walking all the way down to Grand Haven on a very hot day, they can rather hop onto a scooter and enjoy a nice ride.
Now, to recharge them, are you going to pick them all up every night then?
So through that master app, there's going to be an app in which people can rent and an app that allows me to control all of them. So as I see each scooter, I can see the battery on them, I can regulate the speed on them, I can take them out of service. I get to choose what I want to do with the scooters, how I will regulate them, even so much so that it's not developed into the app now, but I was discussing it like, say someone wants to go on the boardwalk, but we had talked about how they could go too fast. I might be able to regulate the entire boardwalk as per se like a 7-mile-per-hour zone. So it's like if they're choosing to go on the boardwalk, they're doing it for the scenic route rather than getting somewhere speedy.
So you would pick them up every day?
Right.
I mean, they got to get recharged.
As they need to be recharged, I of course would have to recharge them, otherwise they wouldn't be able to be used.
So you'd physically pick them up and bring them to a location where you've got a meter you can plug into and...
I plan to charge them at Wessels, correct?
At Wessels, okay.
They have a big garage space in there, and Wessels won't be open to the public as they will be out in a rack style, but I will be able to use the Wessels interior garage as storage and or charging area.
This is some cutting edge stuff. I think if, I'd like to suggest that it's a great trial period. He's starting small, and it sounds like there's enough interest in it that I should place it on the next agenda for consideration and approval.
Absolutely, I'm pretty interested in it, and instead of being just dumped on us, I really like you coming forward and being straight and forward and taking that, like I say, bull by the horns pretty much, and taking control of it. It's like in Lansing, you just said they just dumped them out there, with no word, no nothing. So I appreciate it, Colin, very much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your openness and hearing me out today. I really appreciated your time.
All right, appreciate the presentation. Can I ask you one more question? All right.
Ice cream.
Well, I'm sorry, it's almost ice cream. Okay, we just got a couple minutes. Now, when you hear that this kind of bombed out in Lansing, does that discourage you at all?
Actually, not in the slightest.
Okay.
I solved all the issues, so
okay.
we're good.
All right, good attitude.
Thank you
All right,
again.
Thank
You
you.
did well.
All right, general business, call of the audience.
Oh,
Whoops,
wait,
you had
I had a
anything?
couple
Oh,
more
no,
things,
oops,
I'm sorry.
I'll pass delay it.
Okay.
No, I'll be really quick, Mr. Fritz.
Okay.
The,
Yeah, it's your
you'll
control.
recall back in November, the city council considered a resolution, and approved a resolution about approval of contracts in city departments, particularly the BLP. And we've come up with a method to exercise a level of oversight that sounds like everybody's comfortable with, but I just wanted to make sure that the proposed approach to have somebody from the BLP come before city council, maybe on a quarterly basis, and give an update, to provide a copy of each agenda to the mayor prior to their meeting, that the mayor will share with city council, so you get the full agenda packet each time. And you've gotten a copy of all the purchasing policies that are currently in place. So it sounds like that's something you're comfortable with. I'd like to just draft that into a statement that you can then acknowledge somehow, so that we can put that to rest. And if you have any other concerns or comments, please let me know, and I'll take that into consideration. But I'd just like to get that put to bed, because you did pass a resolution, and I want to make sure that I've pursued that and carried out the intent that you had when you passed that resolution. The business recognition lunch is next, the 19th, so it's in a couple weeks yet. On June 19th, it's going to be at Grand Haven Golf Club or Spring Lake Country Club.
Oh, I think it's Grand Haven Golf Club.
Really?
And I just need to get a count of who is planning to attend that.
That's open, huh? I know the golf course.
Yeah, it's
Well,
the
The
19th.
building is golf courses.
Don't take your golf clubs.
It's at Grand Haven Golf Club. I think their dining room's open.
Okay.
So the 19th at 11:45. Are you all planning on attending?
I always do.
I do, yes.
Okay. So I'll put
I
everybody
can get
down.
time off work for that.
Will you get off work for that? Okay.
Yeah, Bob's taking a day off.
Yeah, yeah.
Just on behalf of all the employees, an Army travels on its stomach, and the city council fed everybody lunch last week, and that should keep everybody going all summer long. So thank you for doing that. I know you
Did you
know,
serve?
put a lot of effort into that, and I'll show up, and it was really very much appreciated. And finally, I just want to underscore the remarkable effort on this valuation. I don't know any other city that's ever put an actual dollar figure, and it's very sophisticated. This is 2019 dollars. We know what our infrastructure is worth, and I was astounded. It's over $500 million of value out there. That's a huge investment that the people of Grand Haven have made over generations. So to actually put a number on it, we've talked about this. This has been your number one issue for over a decade, and for Derek to have taken this step, I think is really remarkable that he did this, and he did it kind of quietly and put a lot of work into it, and he was pretty modest tonight about it, and I was blown away when I saw it. I was like, wait a minute, we got every inch covered, and he really did a complete job. So this is very reliable, $558 million, and it gives us a much better lens on how to address the problem. So sometimes you need this kind of data to be more effective. So I think he's really set us up for success here, and I hope Alex is paying close attention to this. This is a very big deal. I don't know another municipality in the whole state of Michigan that has this level of sophistication when it comes to the valuation of their assets. And I think we're going to take this show on the road. I'm going to brag about this, and Derek's going to be going out with his bright shirt on a tour of Michigan, showing off how we did it and recommending other communities. You ought to know what it's all worth before you start wringing your hands and worrying about how you're going to replace it. So I'm really proud of the DPW, Derek, and Abbenmarsh, who did this pro bono. They didn't charge us for this work, so that was great. So that's all I got, Your Honor.
All right, no, it's, you look at those, and every water line, every sewer line, every street is on these maps, and it's amazing with the GIS system that we have, that we track all that stuff. There's no mysteries out there. We've got it all mapped out, so very cool.
Well, he's got it nailed down to $558,910,439.33.
Today.
So yeah, that was that last little bolt on that last storm drain. He counted that this afternoon and added
How's the
it.
last
35 cents.
All right.
I have one question for you, if I may.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I know we have a standing thing at City Council that if we get the meeting done before 9 PM, Pat buys us ice cream. So I know we're all excited to go have ice cream. And I don't want to derail that too much, but regarding the BLP and the draft recommendations, Pat, I just want to make sure that was done, or could be done in collaboration, or has been done in collaboration with the BLP. Or is this something that we are coming up with unilaterally, as we did last time, that didn't work so well for us? So I just want to make sure that it's something they've either had input on, or the attorneys have had input on, in conjunction with them, so we can go down a more positive track this time around.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, as I understand it, our attorney spoke with the staff there and worked things out, and this is something very workable from their perspective.
Okay. All right, good, thank you. Good, didn't derail it too much.
It's all about communication, folks. General business, call the audience. Anybody want to address council at this time? We got like 6 minutes.
We're all right. We got all time.
Mike, I'll buy you ice cream if you hold it up.
We've missed ice cream before, that's okay.
That's all right.
We can live with
I want to say real quick.
You gotta tell us who you are and where you live.
My name is Caitlin Burry. I am the new news director at 92.1 WGHN. I just wanted to come and introduce myself, and I'm going to be here probably every 2 weeks when you guys are here. So, hi everybody.
Welcome.
And I'm assuming that's where the media sits.
Yes.
Yeah. Right behind
Usually
I'll
that
remember
big
that for
tank's
next
not
time.
there.
Right behind the aquarium.
All right. Well, nice to meet you all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else want to address council at this point?
Don't let the ice cream thing.
Don't let the ice cream
Oh,
intimidate
no, just
you.
come forward if you want to talk.
No, go ahead, seriously, we'll only cry, but that's all right. No, okay, well, then in that case, we're gonna adjourn. Thanks all for coming.
Damn.
And,
All right.
Enjoy our
Remember that,
evening with us.
Pat's buying
All
her,
right.
come over.